Happy Wednesday, folks. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Lions news and rumors. We got a couple new players that jumped onto the roster. We're going to talk about Dan Skipper really quick because I've seen some questions there. More TeSlaa. Is that something that we're going to see on Sunday in Chicago? Dan Campbell spoke about it. St. Brown talks about Ben Johnson and his return. Can't wait to give you his thoughts on that one. Same with Dan Campbell about the return of Ben Johnson and trade rumors idea from A to Z Sports. But let's get into quick Lions roster moves, adding a linebacker to the roster there in Monty Rice, 26 years old. Drafted in 2021. His career stats is as follows: 129 combined tackles with 70 solo, 59 assists, and 3 quarterback hurries. Monty Rice is just going to be another player on the practice squad that's going to help out with depth and injuries. Now, again, you say, oh, it's just a small move. Actually, we use players on the practice squad. Why is that? Because we already lost Jamarco Jones for the season, and guess what? We have a player that can fill the shoes that was on the practice squad, is on the practice squad. That is Dan Skipper. And that is just one example of players from the practice squad that has helped the Lions out for some time. So, look, I don't know what he's going to bring right now. He's just a player that's added to the practice squad in regards to depth and potentially helping down the future. And I'm perfectly fine with Brad Holmes turning every single rock and looking for every option to get better. And this is going to be something that's going to be throughout the season, is the back end of the roster, like the practice squad. Folks, I want you to like the video. Will it into existence, the Lions beating the Chicago Bears? The more likes we get, the chance this thing has a chance to help get that W here. How about Isaac TeSlaa? One of the complaints I had, one of the complaints what a lot of the fans had, is the lack of TeSlaa on the field against the Packers, and Dan Campbell spoke about that, and it looks like there's going to be a change, and a positive change. Certainly, we'd like to use him more, Campbell said. There's something there. Looks like he's back, and he feels pretty good. It was good to see him make a play. He was the only in there for 3 plays on offense, but did a good job on those 3. Made that big catch, so we're going to start trying to get him some reps. Yes, give him more reps and more reps. Continuing, it says, obviously, it's great to score a touchdown, but it would have been great for a different situation. TeSlaa said about, obviously, he wanted to win the game. It's cool to get the touchdown, but he wanted to win a game. He says, obviously, been a dream of mine to play in the NFL and play in the stadium specifically. Unfortunately, at the end of the result, is the best of it. And he wanted to win in Green Bay, and this is why we need TeSlaa on the field more. This is why he is a playmaker who makes plays. 6'4", big body receiver that catches balls. Big time balls, and we need them caught in big plays. We need him on the field more on Sunday, and I truly hope that's going to be the case here relatively soon. Now, Amon-Ra St. spoke to the media about the return of Ben Johnson, and I laughed when I seen it. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it, and you guys are going to have a good laugh on this one. He says, week 2 is going to be crazy. I promise you, it's going to be electric, St. Brown said on the recent episode of the St. Brown podcast. But as soon as Ben Johnson walks in there, we're booing him. I don't give an F. We're all booing him. Yeah, we like that. That's what we like to hear from our players, and absolutely go out there and boo him, and I want the fans to boo him. I want the players to have a chip on their shoulder in this game, and we know they do. They got that chip on their shoulder. They want to go out there and beat their former OC, Bears head coach, leaving the Lions to your rival, spurning Detroit, and of course, boo, boo, boo. And I appreciate him coming out there and saying this. And don't need to poo-poo it, right? And look, Dan Campbell is asked about the return of Ben Johnson. This is what he had to say. He says, well, you practice one of 2 things. You do every opponent. But, I mean, I don't really care about those trick plays. Talking about Ben Johnson. He says, let's just handle the meat and potatoes of an offense, a defense. what we think we're going to hang in there hat on. And let's stop first. Let's worry about that. Let's make sure we're all on point, and let's handle the other stuff with our rules. You go out there, paper your eyes, man. You know, give you the rules for a reason. And look, may hit us with one of those, all right? You know, that happens. Get back in the huddle, and let's go out there on the next play. Dan Campbell continues on. He says, no, we've got a very large menu of things, so you know there can be anything, but we're all good. I mean, you can sit there and paralyze yourself with what if. The most important thing is you get in trouble if you don't handle the nuts and bolts of offense. If you can't stop the run, you know, we bleed our explosives, and that's where you can get in trouble. So I'm not worried about the other stuff from that. So, look, Dan Campbell's saying the right words, right? You can't worry about the trick plays. You can't worry about what they're going to do. You got to worry about what we're going to do. And, of course, the media is going to take it in other ways. But I love what Dan Campbell said there. I love specifically what St. Brown said there, that the players, you could feel this is going to be a different game. This is going to be the home opener in Ford Field after a terrible loss against your former OC and trying to make Detroit Lions in Chicago. So you know there's going to be a lot of revving up. And we're going to be revving up a sub-battle against Harrison Graham of the Bears. So I don't know what we're at right now, but subscribe. We got to beat them in the battle. Subscribe to the channel. Let's continue on here. Now, A to Z Sports dropped an article talking about 4 players the Detroit Lions could add, one being in free agents and the other 3 being a trade. Now, I have already went through it. I like the trades, and I like the idea of picking up a pass rusher here. So I wanted to give them a shout-out, Mike Payton, and go over what he said. Now, we're going to go over the first player. That's free agent DeMarcus Walker. Now, remember, he actually had a visit with the Detroit Lions. He's the big body edge, right? Set the edge. 6'4", 280. What has he done last year? Well, 25 solo, 3.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 16 quarterback hits. If the Lions aren't getting any production, especially after the Chicago Bears game, where the offensive line is not that good, if we're not getting pressure on Caleb Williams, the Lions legit need to consider looking for pass rushers here in Lawrence. If they're not wanting to make a trade, if they're not wanting to go, an expensive way and go with the player whom they've brought in, he could be a player they can look at. Clowney's gone, right? We know Z's gone. That could be a free agent option, but it's slim pickings at this point, right, when it comes to this position. Now, Mike Payton also had 3 trades, and so we're going to go over the trades. All the trades I think are fair, so let's get into it. The first one here is a trade to get Azeez Ojulari from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I do like Azeez Ojulari. I actually talked about him last year, talked about him in the offseason as well. And this trade would not be a lot. We're talking about a 7th-round pick. Now, if you look at the Detroit Lions draft picks here, folks, we got plenty of back-end draft picks that we can utilize. 2 6 and 2 7s. The Lions can, if they want to get a player, could give up a 7th-round pick. And it's not going to hurt us at all. Why is that? The Lions roster is stacked. We're not going to be able to get all these people in the draft anyways in 2026, so you can do that. Who is Azeez Ojulari? He's 6'3", 240. He's on the skinnier side, but he's a pass rusher with 5 years experience. He's not a scrub either. Last year, 12 solo tackles, 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 10 quarterback hits for a 7th-round pick. I say absolutely in this trade, and I would say this would be a solid idea for the Lions to get a player that can help them out and who's not being utilized a lot for Philadelphia. The next trade here is with the Miami Dolphins to get Jaelan Phillips for a 6th-round pick. As you know, we just talked about the Lions got draft picks at the back end. 6'5", 240, 8 years experience, 29 years old with 6.5 sacks, 24 solo tackles and 11 tackles for loss with 15 quarterback hits. Now, look, Jaelan Phillips is a good player, but the Miami Dolphins are looking like a scrub team beyond belief. And I think that the Lions, if they wanted to make a trade, they could make a trade with a team like the Miami Dolphins, especially before the NFL trade deadline. Subscribe to the channels. We're competing with Harrison Graham this week. Let's get into the next trade here, and that is with the Tennessee Titans for Arden Key, a good old pass rusher, and this would be for a 5th-round pick. We got a 5th-round pick. We can utilize it. This player, he can bring pain to offenses here. Arden Key, 6'5", 240, 8 years experience here. What did you do last year, man? Mr. Key's got 6.5 sacks, 24 solo tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 15 quarterback hurries. Better than Jaelan Phillips for a career stat, and this is something that the Lions could utilize, would help them out in a big way. I would love to get a player on this team that can get after the freaking quarterback. I would like it. Those trades are all reasonable in my opinion. Every single one. Those trades are all reasonable. They're late draft picks, and if the Lions are still not getting pass rush for the trade deadline, or even after the Bears game or something, you can make a move, at least attempt to make a move to get some talent on this defensive line, because at some point we got to get pass rush, right? So give me your thoughts. Would you make any of these trades? With that said, folks, adios.